Hello everyone, this is Moby's Primal, and I am back with another Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report. So this is a rematch against the same opponent that I played a couple of games ago. He wanted another go at my Bretonnians, and I was happy to oblige him. I did offer to bring out the Peasant Horde army, but he insisted on facing my Knight Heavy new force again. So this time, however, we decided to play a meeting engagement, 2,400 points. Let's get it on. Starting from my opponent's left flank, he has a unit of Reavers, and then both of his Ballistae on the hill in the back there. His 2 units of Sea Guard make it the core of his force, again joined by his BSB in the left unit, who carries the Great Weapon and the Banner of Eternal Flame. And then the Archmage, old Skippy there on the right, he carries the Scroll and he wears the Foley Arth's robe. And he has a second unit of Reavers, lies in between his both those units. And then on the left is a Chariot, a Great Eagle, and his White Lions. And then for reserves, he rolled ones for all these units, his Dragon Princes, Sword Masters, and the second Chariot. And then my lines are decidedly thin as well. I have 2 Archer units far back in the deployment line because I don't like getting charged in turn 1, knowing that I can't go first. And then I have a unit of Yeomen and the Trebuchet in the back there. And then all jammed up in this corner on the right are my Pegasus Knights, my Heaven's Mage Sam, and the Nobody unit, and the second Fast Cavalry. Then for reserves, my General Hainer rolled 1, the second Trebuchet, and a Knight Lance rolled 1 to be put in reserve, as did my BSB. And since I didn't want to split up the BSB and his unit of 11 Knights, I decided to go ahead and stick the second unit in reserve too. It doesn't hurt Bretonnia terribly much because when they come on the board, they can move pretty quickly and get to where they need to be. Alright, so High Elves turn 1 has the Dragon Princes come in to stare down the Nobodies because they want to hold up that my Nobody unit because I have flaming attacks and Dragon Princes are all but invulnerable to fire. Aside from that, the infantry units on the right start to shuffle up, and then the bolt throwers absolutely blast the crap out of my Yeomen, but aren't able to finish off that unit. We've just got 1 guy left, and we immediately go into Heartless 1. So Bardorba and the Knights come in on the left flank. I'm really hoping to just outmuscle that Chariot and then put pressure on the flanks of the Elf army in further turns. Hainer flies up into that swamp, also just give him some options for later turns. And then on the right, through some sneaky charge declarations, I managed to push the Reavers off the table. So basically how it worked is I declared a charge with the Nobodies, and if the Reavers held, I would have charged the Dragon Princes with that Yeoman just to get them out of the way, and then the Nobodies would get in touch with the Reavers and teach them who's boss. Instead, the Reavers elected to flee, and then after they fled, they were just barely within range of that last Yeoman, so he declared a charge and pushed them off the table, basically. And then I had 2 failed charges. I do the Nobodies first, so they basically just move up 2 inches or something like that, bump up against the Yeoman, and then the Yeoman moves up, and I think he moves 6. So this kept them at the Nobodies at a respectable distance from getting jammed up from the Dragon Princes, because I don't want to get hit by those guys. I don't want to get into that urinary Olympiad with the flaming attack versus the invulnerable flaming stuff. That's it about movement. Trebuchet smacks a direct hit against the Sea Guard unit, kills something like 14 guys. Ouch. And that's it. So we roll into High Elves turn 2. Alright, so the Dragon Princes declare a charge at my last Yeoman, and since I don't want them to hit the Yeoman, kill him, overrun, and hit into my Nobodies, I decide to flee. And then the Princes redirect. They needed 11 to contact the Nobodies, and they make it anyways. so all that evil masterminding for nothing. Aside from that, the Sword Masters move onto the board, and on the left, the White Lions move up to close in on the second Knight Lance. And then the second Chariot moves onto the board to support the first one against the Knight Lance at the far side. He's trying to do some Chariot batteries there. Shooting manages to kill off a single Pegasus Knight, but I think for all the damage those guns were putting out, it probably would have been better just to put them on my Yeoman unit there, as I still have that Fast Cavalry, and they're in a terrific position to redirect the White Lions later on. So in combat, the Dragon Princes only kill 2 Nobodies, despite failing their fear check and hitting on 5s. So now, what you think? What? Ground Knights don't cause fear. Aha! Aha! Except flaming attacks cause fear in cavalry, and despite said cavalry being nearly invulnerable to fire attacks, they still fall by that rule. So the Princes, they won combat by 1 because they charged and they have 2 hits, and then I have a standard and a rank. My Nobodies are steadfast, and luckily I stick around, because that would suck to have those Dragon Princes darting around in the backfield. So now these 2 units are set to basically pillow fight each other for the rest of the game, because the Princes are only strength 3, so they really can't crush through my armor too well. And then the nobodies can't hurt the princes because of the fire thing. So the big difference is the dragon princes cost about half as much as the nobody unit. So I think he's making out good in that deal. And then we head into Heartless 2. So my Pegasus Knights fail a charge against that weakened Seaguard unit. During the magic phase, for the elf magic phase last turn, old Skippy got a sum spell that said every unit within 12 gets stubborn. So I expect to win, but not to break the unit, but I really wanted to save the Pegasi from getting shot up anymore. They're really soaking a lot of the ranged firepower from the elf army, but I think my luck is about to run out. Hainer flies up on the flank, mostly just as a scare tactic. I don't want him to charge in there if he's going to be in position to be countercharged by a chariot right after. Last game against the Beastman player, that's exactly what happened, and I think I lucked out there too, so I don't want my luck to run out. Basically scares off both the chariot and the second Reaver, the Illyrian Reaver unit. So they're doing what I wanted to do, push those enemies out and then be able to threaten the flanks in later turns. With the Trebuchet, I managed another hit against that weakened Seaguard unit, and basically take him to just the champion and old Skippy hanging out there. So pretty devastating Trebuchet shots back to back. Then in hand to hand. Well, this picture was taken a little prematurely because I think I won the combat, and then I decided I was thinking about reforming them into this line to get more attacks, but then I elected not to because I was looking at the situation. I'd gotten harmonic convergence off on the nobodies, so no wounds were being exchanged at all because of the fire thing, and also I have basically a rerollable 2+ armor save now. But I won the combat because I have a rank and a standard, and then dropping the leadership of the Dragon Princes to 6 is nice, and if I can do that every turn, I might see those guys off, but not if I reformed the ranks or into that line to try to get more attacks. So the Prince is stuck this round. We'll fight it again in High Elf 3. The Swordmasters on the right, they just barely fall short of connecting the charge against my Pegasus Knights, which would have definitely saw those guys get killed. And then the White Lines did go ahead and charge the Yeoman just to remove them from the table. In the back, the Chariot rallied, but the Reavers failed to do so. That sucks because now they can't do their Swift Flee or whatever the special rule is for Fast Cavalry, where they flee a charge and come back next turn. He sets up the Chariots to basically give a good support battery to that last Seaguard unit. And then old Skippy left his buddy from the first unit. You can see the last guy in the back there. His job now is just to dance around and do points denial. In shooting, the bolt throwers light up my Pegasi again, leaving just a champion and a Pud with a wound on him, which I'm okay with so long as I can get into combat with the bolt throwers now, because that's really all I need. And then in hand-to-hand combat, of course the White Lions decimate the Yeoman, but over on the right, this is the big story. The Knight-on-Knight combat, again, yielded no wounds, but it saw the nobodies win by 2 static combat res that I described earlier. And the Princes broke. They fled, but they were just shy of being cut down. But that's okay, because it's about to be Heartless 3, and then I'll declare a charge against the nobodies, who must flee, and then I can just barely sneak around the Swordmasters there to clean that up nicely and be a huge dangerous threat from the backside of the lines. Of course, none of that goes exactly as planned, because when the Princes fled through the Swordmasters and that Eagle, both of those units failed their corresponding panic check and also fled. So, in addition to the Knights being cut down, both of those units on the right flank are fleeing the battlefield. So that's just ultra crazy unluck for my opponent there. Also, the Pegasus finally made the charge into the bolt throwers on the hill, but the big lance in the center made it into the remaining Seaguard unit. And then this is where it gets really dicey for my opponent. I had a super lucky magic phase. I cast Ice Shard Blizzard on the Seaguard just to try to pull some Dispel dice out, but my opponent didn't bite on that lure. Because, -1 to hit isn't a super terrible issue because they get to reroll because they always strike first thing. But then I get a lucky miscast putting Harmonic Convergence on the Knights. And let me tell you, this is just a rumor, but what I've heard is rerolling 1s to wound when you wound on a 2+ is almost nearly as good as rerolling 1s for armor save when you save on a 2+. And what's even better is when you get both of those things combined for something like Harmonic Convergence. As evident by this picture here. I lost 1 Knight from the High Elf BSB that was in that unit, And then the remaining strength 3 attacks did 0 wounds because I have a rerollable 2+ armor save. And then I returned 11 wounds. The elves broke, were run down, and my opponent conceded. You know, the remnants of his army are either fleeing or not in a good position to charge me, so that's game. Pretty quick game over, but I think my opponent did play a really good game. He's still learning this high elf army. I think his only mistake was he should have used that great eagle to kill off my trebuchets as quickly as possible instead of darting around in the back, because those things are absolutely devastating against elves. And also, I think there may be a bit of optimization needed for his roster, like changing to a more effective magic lore, or running Spearman instead of Seaguard and saving a few points here and there. You know, it's just a bunch of tweaks. I really enjoyed all 3 games that I played this weekend. The all-night army play is completely different from the peasant hordes that I'm used to running, and it feels like an entirely different army. I still have some more knights to paint up, but I think my next step is to buy another Pegasus Knight and make 2 units of 3 Pegasus. I think I'd also like to try running the trebuchets as strength 410 instead of the 510 that they are actually. You know, I've done proxy rules like that before, where I give my peasants weapon skill 3 and I give my knights devastating charge, so I don't think it's terribly out of the scope of things to try something that weakens the army a bit, like the trebuchet. Anyway, that's the report. Hope to see you next battle.